Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm sorry I've been so MIA lately, but I was sick. I had a really bad cold, so you might still hear a little bit of that in my voice. I might sound a little bit different, but we're just gonna go with it for now. And today we're gonna be talking about the new Kokie Pro Collection palettes. I had shown these in a Sunday haul a few weeks back and done a couple of swatches, but ever since then I've been really testing these out and playing with both palettes a lot. So I'm gonna do 2 looks for you guys today, as well as some swatches, and just let you know my overall thoughts. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right in. So before we dive into formula, why don't we go ahead and just talk about the packaging really quick. These are really soft, kind of squishy palettes. The outside is like a shiny leatherette material, and then the inside is foam where the pans are glued in. And I want to mention 2 things about that. One is that these have a really strong smell. When you first open them, I was honestly really taken aback by the smell of these. It was an overwhelming kind of plasticky chemical smell, and it gave me a headache. As I was looking at them and swatching them, I was just like, I need to take a break from them. It was that strong. At this point now, I've had these for I think about 3 weeks, and I don't smell that smell anymore, which is definitely a good thing. And I honestly don't think it's the eyeshadows themselves. I don't think any of the ingredients that are in here would cause a scent like that. I believe it's actually the glue that's holding this palette together, because you have this piece of foam that's glued here, and also the pans are glued in as well, because this is not a magnetic palette, so they do need to be glued down. And I was trying to kind of see how they're attached, and it seems like that's what's going on. So they probably added a layer of glue all along the bottom here, and that's what's causing that smell. And it has faded, like I said, so I don't think it's an issue if you are willing to just kind of deal with it for the first few weeks, or if you just want to kind of open these up and let them air out. I think it would dissipate a lot quicker, but I just wanted to let you guys know in case any of you are sensitive to smells, because I'm not really that sensitive to it, and this was almost headache inducing for me, so I kind of had to like walk away from them. So just something to keep in mind. Also, I feel like this packaging isn't the greatest either, because it's popping up on the side over here, and it's the middle of winter here in New England. My house is really dry, so I can't see that moisture is a factor in this at all. I'm not quite sure why it's doing this. And there are magnets in here that are supposed to hold it together. You can kind of see the magnet here and one on this side, but it's just not gripping over here because it's kind of curling down. I think it's the bottom part. Yeah, the bottom is curling down like that, and then the top is pretty straight, but it's not going to stay closed. And the black one is doing it as well. So I'm not really too crazy about the packaging just in general. It's not the best quality. Even here, like you have this mirror, but it's just glued in, and it's kind of like popping out a little bit if you bend the packaging at all. I'm just not too big on the overall package, and it actually does remind me a lot of the Natasha Denona packaging, just with the faux leather outside. It has the stitching around it, and these palettes are actually foam inside as well. The pans are glued in. It's pretty much the same thing, but whatever they're using here is working a lot better than what they're using here. So those are kind of 2 negative things about these palettes right off the bat, but why don't we go ahead now and just talk about each one individually. So first let's talk about the white palette, and this one is a little bit more cool toned overall. You do have some warm shades mixed in, but you also have these really beautiful cool purples, pinks, blues over here, and then you have your browns and kind of plummy shades, rosy tones. It's a really gorgeous palette. I feel like I would definitely use this a lot going into the spring and summer for sure. And also, out of the 24 shades, you get 17 shimmers and 7 mattes, so it's definitely more heavy on the shimmer shades for sure, but the mattes that you get I feel like are really easy to work into any kind of look. You have your matte ivory shade up here, and then this brown and this one are really great transition shades, and then you have some deeper matte shades down in the corner here, as well as a lavender matte and a pink matte. So even though there aren't a lot of mattes in here, I think you get all of your core matte shades that you would need, which is really awesome. So let's go ahead now and take a look at some swatches so you can see them all laid out together. And I just think, again, this is a really beautiful palette, and I was surprised by the formula as well. I think it's really good. For the most part, the shimmer shades are super buttery and creamy, and the matte shades are also really pigmented. They don't have a lot of fallout, which is awesome. The only variation I would say that's in this palette is this pink shimmer and this lavender one right here. These don't feel like the others. They're a little bit more on the flaky side. They're a little more sheer. They're almost like a topper in a sense, so they're not quite as buttery as some of these shades. Like this one, for example, let me just show you kind of what they look like as they go on. You can see like how crazy intense and pigmented that is, and that's what most of the shimmers in this palette are like. But then if you try to go into, like, let's say this purple right here, it just does not swatch the same. It doesn't apply the same. It's just a little more on the sheer side. You really need to build it up to get the color to show, but thankfully it's only these two shades right here. The rest of the palette is just like this silver one. It's really buttery and shimmery and pigmented. And then next we have the black palette, and this one is more, I would say, warm neutrals overall. You have your bronzes and golds, warm browns, and then a couple pops of green here, and then also you have your matte black. And this one gives you a few more matte shades. You have 9 mattes and 15 shimmers in this one. And again, I think the formula is pretty consistent throughout this one as well. The mattes are really easy to work with, really pigmented, and blend beautifully on the eyes. And the shimmer shades are all, again, very rich and buttery, with the exception of, I would say, this silver one up here and then this gold. They're a little more on the flaky side, so they're harder to pick up with a brush, and they just need a little bit of help to get them to show up more intensely on the eyes. But the rest of the shimmers hold up much nicer. I will say overall, the shimmers in this palette apply the best with a finger, or if you want to go ahead and wet them with a brush, they apply a little more intensely than they do just on their own. But it's not to say that they don't pick up with a brush, because they definitely do pick up easily enough and do apply nicely to the eyes even without primer. But just to give them that little extra kick or a little bit of intensity, I would recommend using either your finger or a dampen brush. So now let's go ahead and see them in action. I'll show you the look that I did yesterday with this white palette right here. First, I went into this lighter brown shade right here as a transition, and I applied that to my crease and then just blended that out. And as I said before, the mattes in these palettes blend really, really nicely and show up nicely as well. I really didn't feel like I had to keep building with them. They're also not super powdery. I don't feel like they just blend away to nothing. And then I applied this deeper rosy brown shade to my crease and also the outer corner, just to add a little bit of depth to the look. And then for my lid shade, I used this really beautiful dusty blue right here. It's like a beautiful bluish gray shade. And at first I tried applying it with the brush, but it wasn't intense enough for me, so then I went in with my finger and that worked beautifully. And then last but not least, I took a little bit of this silver shade right here on my ring finger and just tapped it right into the center of my lid to make the look pop a little bit. And this shade is super intense and it just made the look. I feel like it looks so beautiful. So here's the finished look, and you can see how intense the shimmers look on the eye. I didn't have to wet anything at all. Like I said, I just applied them with my fingers and they came out really beautifully. And then for today's look, I'm using the black palette. So first I took this light brown matte shade and applied it with a fluffy brush to my crease area and blended it up toward my brow bone. Then I applied this deep orangey brown to my crease just to add depth, and also applied it to the outer corner and dragged that underneath my eyes a little bit as well. And then on my lid, I applied this antique gold shade just with my finger again. I found that that worked really well. I didn't even bother using a brush this time, and I love, again, the way this look came out. It's really intense looking. I didn't have any issues applying or blending the shadows. I think they work beautifully. So overall, I would say my feelings on the new Kokie palettes are mostly positive. I really enjoy the formula of these. I think it's the best formula that Kokie's come out with, and I do have their little mini 9-pan palettes and also the artist palettes, which I think are good, but these are definitely a step up from that. I think they're amazing, especially for the price. But then on the downside, there are definitely 2 negatives that I can see with these. One is the packaging and just how these don't close all the way. I don't see it being a huge issue if you're just going to store these in a drawer, but if you're planning to travel with them, they could definitely pop open really easily. So it's not something I think you could travel with packaging like this. And also the smell is another negative. I really didn't even want to use these the first week or so that I had them, just because I wanted to let them air out and get rid of that smell. I really didn't even want to go near them. So if that's something that bothers you, you may not enjoy these palettes, but I do want to just reassure you that it does go away. I would say just let them air out and let that smell go away, and then you should be good to go. And also, I just want to mention as well that if you are interested in picking up these palettes, I do have an affiliate code with Kokie. These are not available at Walmart or Rite Aid yet. I don't know if they're going to be releasing these into stores. They're only available on their website. They're $20 each, and I have a coupon code for 25% off, so they're only $15 with my code, so you will save $5, which is a pretty good deal, I would say. So if you're interested, I will leave all of that down in the description box below. Alright, so anyway, those are my thoughts on the new Kokie Pro palettes. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, definitely don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I do reviews during the week as well as hauls every Sunday. And also, I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Are you planning to buy these palettes, or are you planning to skip them? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching.